Hey, what's up, guys? It's Sam Shaw here from Wall Street Mastermind. Wanted to record this video to talk about something that's pretty important today. It's pretty basic, but pretty important at the same time. Today, what I want to talk about is just giving you guys a better understanding of the recruiting timeline. Okay, and this is what it currently is as of 2020. Right, we're in May of 2020 right now, and I say that because quite frankly, the recruiting timeline changes year to year. And typically, what we've been finding is that, over the past 10 years or so, recruiting for investment banking has started earlier every single year, like earlier than the previous year, every single year. So it continues to move up and happen earlier and earlier. Right now, the reason why I say this is a pretty basic but important topic is because we speak to students who want to get into investment banking on a daily basis. Our team does, and so we have a pretty large sample size of data. And what we're finding is that a lot of students actually don't even have a good understanding of what the timeline looks like and where they are within that timeline. Now, this is why that's problematic. One, if you don't know what the timeline looks like, you can't set realistic goals. Okay. And if you can't set realistic goals from a recruiting standpoint, you're not going to be able to game plan accordingly. You're not going to be able to spend time on the things that you actually should be spending time on, right? So, what do I mean by that, for example? So, I got an email today from someone who is about to finish his junior year, for example, right? So, he's a third year student in college. Junior summer is about less than a month away, right? And he just decided, he used to want to be a corporate lawyer, but a few months ago, he decided that he wants to do investment banking, right? So let's say halfway through his third year in college, he decided he wanted to do investment banking. And so now he's focused on doing that, but he's still aiming for a lot of the big banks, right? Probably like the Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley's and JP Morgans of the world. Problem is, as a lot of you probably already know, if you're in May of your junior year already, a lot of those big banks finished recruiting a really, really long time ago, right? Like you've already missed the recruiting window for that. And so there's literally nothing you could do at this point to get an internship from one of those places. But if you don't know that, and this guy didn't know that, um, what he's doing is he's still spending all his time trying to network with bankers that work at these places, when in reality he should know that these bankers won't be able to do anything for him, right? And he should be instead focusing on um, trying to get into perhaps a smaller bank that may still be recruiting right now, right? Or maybe even doing something else differently altogether, right? So that's just an example. And so what I want to do is, again, this is pretty basic, but I want to walk you guys through the recruiting timeline and show you like what's happening around roughly what time, so that you can kind of look at this timeline and say, hey, where am I right now and what should I be focusing on? Okay, that's the fundamentals. It's like first step, right? You need to know how much time do you have to do something, and then the next step is figure out what do I need to do, right? A lot of people jump straight to the what do I need to do, like, oh, I need to learn all the technicals. Well, that's certainly true, but how much time do you have to learn the technicals? That's going to affect how you go about learning those technicals, right? So let's just dive straight into it. This is actually a page from a new guide that I'm writing on like the A to Z of the investment banking recruiting process. Okay, so for those of you who are interested in getting your hands on this guide after it comes out, feel free to drop a comment, or you can email me and ask me about it. Not sure when it's going to be ready, hopefully soon. But if you want to reach me, you can reach me at sam at wallstreetmastermind.com. and the street is abbreviated to ST. Okay, so it's Sam at wallstmastermind.com. Okay, so anyway, give you a little preview just on this timeline piece, right? So let's start from the top. Okay, I'm gonna first talk about what happens if you're a college student. Let me zoom in on this just so that it's easier to see. So most of you are probably in college, right? I'll talk about what happens if you're in business school in a little bit, but most of you are probably in college, and you're probably going to college for 4 years, right? So what I've broken it down to on this timeline is you have year 1 through year 4, right? And each school year, I know some of you are on a quarter system, but let's just say the vast majority of you guys are on a semester system, right? So you got the fall semester and the spring semester, and then you have summer break, right? So year 1, we got these 3 sections here. Year 2, these 3 sections. Year 3, these 3 sections. Year 4, these 3 sections. Okay. So the way you should think about the recruiting timeline is let's work backwards. All right. So really what you need is your ultimate goal is to get a full-time offer that you can start in like after you graduate senior year. So that's you would typically start your full-time job the summer after your 4th year, after your senior year, right? So that's why this is here. Now, however, we know, and right now I'm talking mostly about the larger, more reputable banks, okay? Like if you want to work at a bulge bracket bank or an elite boutique bank, or even middle market banks, these banks typically hire probably over 90% of their full-time analysts from their summer analyst class, right? So we know that if you want to get this full-time offer, you have to get the summer internship, which happens in the summer between your junior year and your senior year. Okay. And that internship is really important because if you don't have that internship, then your only other chance of getting this full-time offer is to recruit directly for the full-time job towards the end of your junior summer. So between summer and like the start of fall, like right around here. But the problem is, again, they've given over 90% of the offers to their summer interns already. Or like in this upcoming summer, a lot of firms are probably going to give 100% of the offers all to their summer interns because some of their summer interns might not even get offers to come back because they don't need to hire everybody, right? Because it's a recessionary environment, right? There are fewer jobs, less deal flow, so on and so forth. So in scenarios like that, they're not even going to have full-time hiring, okay? They won't have a full-time recruiting process. So if you're not in the summer class, you can pretty much kiss that firm goodbye. Even if the firm does hire though, what's happening is like they might have only certain groups that are hiring, like not all the groups within investment banking will be hiring, right? And the groups that are hiring, it might be like just one opening out of the entire class that hasn't been filled yet. So even if you get to interview for that job, like I personally experienced this back in 2008, I got to the super day for full-time recruiting at Deutsche Bank in their technology investment banking group. And there were 12 of us at the super day for only one job, right? So it's extremely tough. And even when you get there, you look around, everybody else there pretty much has already had a full summer of interning at some other investment bank, right? But they're still there interviewing because they're trying to upgrade their offer. Maybe they worked at a middle market bank and now they're trying to move up to a bulge bracket bank, right? Or maybe they intern at a regional boutique bank and they're now trying to move up to a middle market bank. Like people are always trying to trade up to a bigger and better offer, right? So if you don't have any type of internship experience and other people have that, you're still not going to be able to compete, right? They're going to have more relevant things to talk about to the interviewer, right? And they're just going to be the less risky hire for the firm, right? So that's why this is so critical. So if we really work backwards, yeah, you want the full-time offer, but really first big milestone you need to get that junior summer internship, right? A lot of you already knew that. Now let's work backwards from there then. If I want to get the junior summer internship, when do I have to be ready by? Well, if we keep moving backwards, you see that I've highlighted, oops, I don't want to do that. I've highlighted this as the recruiting window, right? So as of 2020, the time I'm recording this video, the recruiting window is currently, again, for elite boutique, bulge brackets, and middle market banks, what we've seen is it's roughly between the second semester of your second year, so spring semester of second year, all the way through the fall semester or the first semester of your junior year. Okay. So that means that you have about let's call it maybe a 12-month window to find an internship for this summer, right? So ideally, you want to be ready by the end of the first semester of your sophomore year. Because if this is the starting line for the race, you want to be ready to go right here, right? And so that's why I labeled the first year and a half of your college career to be preparation time, right? Like all throughout your first year and your first year summer, and then the first half of your sophomore year, that's when you should be preparing for this recruiting process, right? This is when you're submitting applications and going to the interviews and things like that, okay? So that's the baseline. And by the way, I'll talk more about why you want to be ready right here. Because you might say like, well, if the recruiting window is a year long, why can't I just be ready by this time, right? Why do I have to be ready by this time? We'll get to that in a second, okay? So this is if you're standard 4-year college student, right? Now, some of you guys might, have plans to stay in school for more than 4 years. Like maybe you're doing 4.5 years, or maybe you're a super senior, you're doing 5 years, or maybe you're doing a 5th-year master's program that, starts as soon as you finish your 4 years in undergrad. Like a master's in finance, for example, would be a 5-year program. So if you're doing 4.5 or 5 years, then basically what happens is you would shift. The timeline stays the same, but you would shift everything back by 1 year. So whereas previously we said, hey, you would start your full-time offer after your 4th year. Now, if you look at the labels here, you're now starting your full-time offer after your 5th year. Okay. Even if you only do 4.5 years, you still start your full-time in the summer. So like this one semester, even if you're not in school, you just have that time off. You can go travel before you start working, or if you want to, do something else before you start work, whatever you want, right? But the banks, they have a fixed start date for all of their new classes, right? So now, instead of starting after your 4th year summer, you start during your 5th year summer, which means the summer internship that is really crucial for you, instead of being your 3rd year summer, now becomes your 4th year summer, okay? So if the summer internship that you need to help you convert to a full-time is now your 4th year summer, that means, again, the recruiting window for that is basically the second semester of the prior year. So in this case, year 3, right? So the second semester of your 3rd year in college is when the recruiting window starts. And then again, you have about let's call it 1 year window to land one of these jobs, right? So now you have longer preparation time because I didn't show year 1 before this, right? I didn't show these 3 boxes, but these 3 would basically go here. Okay, so if you delay your graduation by anywhere from 1 semester to an entire year, you basically get to push back your recruiting timeline by a full calendar year. And that just, I guess, buys you extra time on the preparation front. So actually, some people will actually do this on purpose, where maybe they realize they want to do investment banking really late, and they just don't have enough time, right? They've already missed a recruiting window. Like maybe they decided like right around here, or maybe they even decided here, and they're like, oh crap, I already missed the window. Well, you can extend, if you can pick up a double major or figure out a way so that you have more requirements, or you spread out your classes more, take fewer classes every semester, or you add on a 5th year master's thing or master's degree. Now you kind of reset the clock and you could put yourself back into the recruiting window again, right? So that's the second scenario, right? I would say, obviously, if you can do it on the original timeline, that's best because, staying in school an extra semester or for an extra year, especially nowadays, obviously is pretty expensive, right? Tuition and room and board and living expenses and all that. But for some people, it's worth it, especially if that means, hey, that's the only way that they can get into one of these banks. Okay. If that still doesn't work, and let's say you just found out too late, like you found out in your fifth year or like even after you graduated, that's when you found out that you wanted to do investment banking, then pretty much the only other opportunity for you to get into investment banking is to go back and get an MBA. Okay. Because the top tier investment banks, again, I'm talking middle market or above, the ones that are reputable and actually people have heard of these banks on Wall Street, like those banks only hire, there's only two on ramps for those types of firms. One is coming out of undergrad, which is these two scenarios we just talked about. And if not that, then it's going to be coming out of business school. Okay. So you can recruit out of business school for an associate position, but it's obviously going to be one, a different level because instead of going as an analyst, you're going as an associate. And the other thing is you got to understand, like, these firms will hire from business schools, but they will only hire from probably the top, ideally top 10. At most, top 15, top 20, you might be able to squeeze in there as well. But obviously, the higher ranked your business school is, the better your chances are. Outside of top 20, probably don't have a shot. Okay. Banks are a lot more strict about hiring from target schools at the MBA level than they are at the undergrad level because there are a lot fewer positions open. And whether you got into good business school or not, it's just a much better leading indicator to the banks in terms of what type of candidate you are than like where you went to undergrad. Because people go to undergrads for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes people would choose an undergrad based on cost because they can't afford to go to an expensive school. Right? For MBA, it's not the case. All right. So what you got to know though is to get into a top program, you're going to have to still have pretty good work experience after you graduate from college. Like when you graduate, you probably work for like, at least 2 years first before, you can like apply and be accepted into one of these programs. Right. So by the time you start your business school, then you do another 2 years of business school. And so by the time you get here, you're about at least 4 or 5 years out of college. Okay. But if you have to go this route, just know that recruiting pretty much happens as soon as you step foot on campus. During your very first semester in school, this when recruiting happens. And then like by the end of your first semester, like before you go on winter break, usually around the December, January timeframe, recruiting for the summer internship, which happens between your first and second year in business school, the recruiting for that will be done. And you'll pretty much already know where you're going to end up. Right. So for this, like if the recruiting window is as soon as you get to school, really like the preparation time is before you start the MBA. Okay. So maybe when you're still working, whatever job you're working before the MBA, maybe you already know what school you got into, but you haven't started at the school yet. That would be the time for you to start preparing. Right. So hopefully that all makes sense. Those are kind of like your three options, right? You either get in as an undergrad, either in 4 years or, anywhere from 4 to 5 years, right? Or if those don't work, then you go the MBA route, right? And from a financial standpoint, like obviously doing 5 years or 4.5 years of school is more expensive than just doing it in 4 years. But going to MBA is going to be even more expensive than this option, right? Because you get an MBA at a top program, it's probably going to cost you over $200,000 just for those 2 years. Plus, you're not going to be working during that time because it's a full-time MBA program. So there's the opportunity cost of your foregone salary, right? Like depending on how much money you're making, 2 years worth of salary could be anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 at least, probably for a college grad. And so your all-in cost could easily be $300,000 to $400,000, right? And there's still no guarantee that you would get in at the MBA level either, because a lot of people go to business school and they try to get into banking and they don't get in, right? the top 20 programs, on average, about 10% of their graduating class actually ends up in investment banking. Okay. So with that said, the next question you might have, which is right here, the recruiting window, if it's a year long, what's the urgency, right? Why do I say, going back to what I said earlier, why do I say you should want to try to be ready by the end of this semester and not the end of this semester, right? As long as I get a job by this time, I'm fine, right? So here, what I'm doing is I'm drilling down, I'm zooming in on the actual recruiting window, okay? So if we zoom in, like if we ignore all the preparation time, so I just removed basically this section, right? And I just start from the recruiting window all the way to the end, you'll see that yes, the recruiting window for the bigger, more reputable banks is from your second semester of year 2 through the first semester of year 3. However, and this is not 100% what happens all the time with every single bank. I'm giving you just like the general rule of thumb. Nothing is ever 100% set in stone. I just want you guys to understand that. So I don't want to hear someone come tell me, it's like, oh, you said that elite boutiques recruit in the spring semester of year 2, but I know this one elite boutique that recruited like right here in the summer. Yes, that can absolutely happen. Right now, I'm just giving you, again, general rule of thumb. What we've seen from working with all of our clients is that the elite boutiques tend to recruit the earliest. So a lot of firms like, the PJTs and Moelis and Evercores and Lazards of the world, Guggenheim, okay? Like these firms, a lot of them are done hiring their summer intern class by the time you even by the time you finish your sophomore year, basically, like before your sophomore year summer has even started, a lot of these firms have already done filling their classes. So that's more than, like basically more than a year in advance of your actual start date, which is pretty crazy, right? So I would say elite boutiques in general are the hardest to get into just because they're smaller than the bulge bracket firms. So they hire fewer people. And so they also tend to be more selective. And their interviews are a lot harder, at least on the technical side. Okay. And so they tend to recruit the earliest, but they also tend to pay more, right, than the bulge bracket banks. So, there's pros and cons, right? Some people actually prefer to work at elite boutiques over bulge brackets, right? I don't think there's right or wrong. Some people prefer bulge bracket because it's a more well-known name, even outside of Wall Street. But, to each their own. But regardless, if you want to go for elite boutiques, you pretty much need to be rocking and rolling like during this semester. So that's why I said like you want to be ready at this point in time so that you can actually go for some of these earlier opportunities that start as soon as the second semester starts, right? Even bulge bracket banks, a lot of them also start during the second semester of sophomore year. Some of them will recruit in the summer. Like right now we see, firms like Deutsche and Credit Suisse, and what else? Citi, like they're bulge bracket banks that pretty much started really early on, like during the second half of sophomore year. But then firms like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they're waiting till the summer, right? So that's why this timeline is a bit longer, okay? So that's kind of like when the bulge brackets are recruiting. And there's some other bulge brackets that, haven't really started yet, like UBS and, firms like that, right? Morgan Stanley has started, so they're also in here. But then we talk about like middle market banks. So actually middle market banks, typically we find that, they start a little bit later than most of these bulge bracket banks. Although this year even, we've seen a good amount of banks actually start here as well. So, I mean, I might have to update this to be, this entire section, but like the middle market banks, they tend to recruit a little bit later than the bulge brackets as far as what we've seen. And a lot of them will recruit into the first semester of your third year, right? And so the takeaway here is the sooner you're ready to recruit, the sooner you're ready to line up these interviews, like you've done your networking you got your referrals, and then like the sooner you're ready to ace these interviews, like you know all of your technicals already and you've mastered your behavioral answers, the better the bank is going to be. Typically, like the better the offer is going to be that you're going to get, right? And then the later or the longer it takes you to get ready, the fewer options you're going to have, right? Because first you lose most of the elite boutique offers or opportunities. Then eventually you lose all the bulge bracket opportunities. And now you're looking at middle markets. If you wait even longer than that, like if you get to this point, you might not even have middle market opportunities. And now you're looking at mostly regional boutiques, right? Which are oftentimes firms that most people have not heard of. And they're much smaller in scale, and they only focus on doing deals in a specific geographic area or a specific niche or industry, right? So that's why you got to have urgency, because the sooner you can get the offer, the better the offer is going to be. That's what I always tell everyone. Okay. If you miss the summer internship recruiting completely, like you missed this entire thing, and you didn't realize you want to do banking till here or even in your senior year, now you're looking at full-time recruiting. And again, like I said earlier, at these bigger banks, like at these three categories of banks, if you didn't do a summer internship, it's going to be pretty hard to land a full-time offer. So now you're most likely looking at recruiting for a full-time offer at a small regional boutique, okay? Which can still be done. But again, of course, the smaller the bank, like typically the less prestigious it's going to be, the lower the pay, the less exit opportunities. So, even getting into a regional boutique investment bank, I would say it's no easy thing. A lot of people can't even do that. So there's nothing to be ashamed of, but I'm just saying, depending on what your standards are and where you want to set the bar, you may or may not be happy with the outcome, right? So that's why I always tell people, like, start as soon as you can, right? Like, if you can start as soon as you get to college, you're going to have so much more time to prepare than the person who doesn't start until their second year. And that person is going to be better off than the person who doesn't start until their third year, and so on and so forth, right? Because at the end of the day, if you think about this, you're trying to run a race, and this is the finish line. And there's really only two ways to win a race, right? One, start running earlier than everybody else. Get a head start, right? That's the first way. The second way is if you just run faster than everyone else. Like if you're just more efficient, like when we talk about preparation, like if you're just more efficient and more effective with how you prepare and how you learn to do all the things you need to learn, then you might be able to start later than everyone else, but still surpass them as you're running this race, right? Now, the best case scenario is if you start earlier than everyone else and you run faster than them, then you're just going to probably lap your competition, right? Then it's no contest, okay? So how do you run faster? Well, the way you can run faster is, I'll give you an example. For example, if you're just better than other people are at networking, like they have to network with 100 people to get one referral, whereas you only have to network with 20 people to get one referral. Well, if that's the case, then they're going to spend 5 times as long as you to get the same number of interviews that you would have gotten, right? So that's an example of running faster. Like I had a client tell me the other day, he just came to the program and he said, like, wow, this like networking training is amazing because before this program, I was getting a 5% conversion rate on my networking efforts. And just within a week or two, now he's converting at 25%. So he just 5x'd his conversion rate, right? Which means now he can do 1/5 the same amount of networking as before and still get to the same outcome, right? So that's an example, right? Another example would be like on your technical side, maybe you're trying to learn all the technical answers to these questions. Maybe you're reading these guides, or you're, I don't know, asking upperclassmen, or you're taking financial modeling courses, or you're memorizing the 400 questions and answers. And it's taking you a lot of time, right? I know students that spend literally 80, 100, I've even heard 200 plus hours on learning the technicals. And that's stuff that quite honestly should not take that long, right? If you're spending that much time on that, it means you're not doing it the right way. For most of our clients, when we're teaching them technicals, they're learning everything in about 15 to 20 hours. Like all the concepts that you need to learn in about 15 to 20 hours. It's because they actually have, they're using the system that we're teaching them um, to learn it a lot faster and also to learn it a lot more effectively, right? And so think about it. If you can learn your technicals in 15 to 20 hours versus your competition's learning in 100 hours, or if you can network with 20 people, to get one referral, and your competition has to network with 100 people to get one referral, I mean, who's going to win this race? Clearly the person that runs faster, right? So that's what I mean by, hey, running faster than the competition. And so, look, I think the point of all this is, one, to just give you guys a better understanding of what the recruiting timeline actually looks like. Two, I want you to like look at these timelines that I've shown you and think about, like, be very honest with yourself. Like, think about, hey, where am I in this timeline right now? How much time do I have left until I'm going to miss out on the recruiting window? And then also when I'm looking at the recruiting window, specifically, like what type of firm am I trying to target? That's going to give you a sense for, hey, how much time do I have to accomplish the goals I need to accomplish? And then the second thing you need to ask yourself is then, okay, what are the things that I still need to learn? What are the things that I still don't currently know how to do? What do I still need help overcoming? Maybe you don't know how to network. Maybe you lack relevant experience on your resume. Maybe you don't know how to answer technical questions. Maybe your stories that you're using for your behavioral questions are all over the place, or you have your answers, but you're not really sure if your answers are good or not. Like, these are all things that you're gonna have to figure out, right? And if you feel like, hey, I don't have enough time, because I'm already behind relative to my competition, I need to catch up, I need to surpass them. Or maybe you feel like, hey, I still have time, but like I want to run even faster so that I can get even better results, right? Because maybe originally you were on pace to get a middle market offer, but you're not happy with that. You want a bulge bracket offer, or maybe you think you might be able to get a bulge bracket offer, but you want an elite boutique offer. Whatever it may be, like if you're the type of person who feel like you're not content and satisfied with where you are right now, and you want to be even better, then that's what we're here to help you with, right? So what I want you to do is you should schedule um, a free strategy session with our team. Okay, you can use this link down here for those of you that can't see it, but it's wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. Okay, and again, the street is abbreviated to ST, so it's wallstmastermind.com/apply. And what we do on these calls is we will basically try to learn more about your current situation. Like, where are you in the timeline? What are the challenges that you're currently having? Like I just talked about, what are the goals that you're trying to hit? And depending on your situation, because everybody's different, and everybody needs help with different things, we'll first figure out with your help what you actually need help with, and then we'll help you develop a game plan that makes sense based on your situation. Okay, that's why we call it a strategy session. And then if you want our help executing that game plan and we think we can actually help you, then we can discuss what that may look like, right? But we don't really work with everybody. We can't work with everybody in order, like, because we don't want to work with somebody unless we're really, really confident we can help them. But at a minimum, we can help you develop the game plan that you can then go execute and implement on your own. Or again, like if you want our help and it is a good fit, then like we can talk about what we can do together. Okay, so again, hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. If you guys have any questions about any of this, feel free to just drop it down in the comments. I was trying to do this live on on Facebook so that you guys can ask me questions live, but for whatever reason, like I couldn't get the technology to work, so I had to just record this as a video, and I'm going to upload it later. So feel free to drop your comments in the drop your questions in the comments below, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you guys have. Okay. All right, that's it for today. This was on the longer side, but it's really important, so I want to make sure I gave you guys, the specifics and the details, right, and all the nuances. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you guys soon. All right.